All right, let's get into it. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. This is one wild journey. I'm talking death, rebirth, and you guessed it, becoming a slime. But you know what's crazy? It all kicks off with a feeling I think we can all relate to. This idea that your life is just kind of ordinary. And that's literally where our story begins, with our main character looking back on his life. He's got a good job, a decent salary, but he just feels like it was all nothing special. He's got this nagging feeling that something's missing. What he has no idea about, though, is that this ordinary life, it's about to end, and a truly extraordinary one is just around the corner. So let's meet the guy. His name is Satoru Mikami. He's 37 years old, a classic corporate worker, a salaryman. On paper, his life is stable, but deep down, he is absolutely not fulfilled. And then, just like that, in one single, shocking moment, his entire mundane existence comes to a very sudden, very violent end. And I mean, it happens in a flash. 1 second, Satoru's just standing there chatting with a colleague, totally normal. The very next second, some random attacker just runs by and bam, Satoru's on the ground bleeding out. Think about that. His entire 37-year life completely turned upside down in less than 30 seconds. But as Satoru's lying there dying, something really, really strange starts to happen. There's this calm, kind of robotic voice that just echoes in his head. And it's translating his final thoughts into skills for whatever comes next. So he feels the heat from the pavement, right? And the voice just goes, "Heat resistance acquired." He's thinking about how he wishes the stab wound wasn't so bad, and boom, stab resistance acquired. His literal last thoughts and regrets are actively shaping his new reality. And this is where it gets kind of personal and, honestly, a little funny. His personal life starts to directly fuel his new powers. So he's thinking, man, I'm a 37-year-old virgin. I was on track to becoming a great siege, the old joke. Well, this voice, it takes him completely literally. And just like that, it grants him this super powerful analytical skill called Great Sage. And this pattern just keeps going, especially with his deepest regrets. He starts wishing he'd been more aggressive in life, more predatory. And what happens? The voice grants him the Predator skill, which is this incredibly powerful ability to literally consume and absorb the powers of others. It's wild. His biggest regrets are becoming his greatest strengths. But even as he's dying, he's still so human. His final desperate request to his friend isn't some deep, profound piece of wisdom. Nope. It's a plea to destroy his computer's hard drive. I mean, how relatable is that? A slightly embarrassing but very, very funny last wish. And just like that, Satoru Mikami's life is over. But his story, his consciousness, that's not. He wakes up to a new reality, and this one is anything but ordinary. Imagine this. He wakes up to nothing. Complete sensory deprivation. It's utter darkness, total silence. He can't feel a single thing. This is his new state of being. And of course, his first thoughts are exactly what yours or mine would be. Where am I? What on earth is going on? So he slowly starts to take stock of his new situation. Okay, no eyes, no ears. He can't feel any pain. The only real sensation he can even identify is that his body feels, it feels soft, gelatinous, and kind of bouncy. He realizes he can move, but it's not walking. It's more like a squishy bounce. So after a little trial and error, just bouncing around in the total darkness, he comes to the shocking, undeniable, and just utterly absurd conclusion. He's a slime. He's been reincarnated as a slime. Usually one of the weakest, most basic monsters you could possibly find in any fantasy world. Okay, so he's a slime. Now what? That's the big question, right? He basically has to start from scratch and learn the rules of this new existence. He's got to figure out what this new body can even do in this bizarre, dark, new world. And his new life is like a complete inversion of his old one. Think about it. As a human, he was totally bound by the need to eat, sleep, and avoid pain. But as a slime, he's free from all of that. The catch, though, is a big one. He starts out with almost no senses. It's a truly alien way to exist. This is where that predator skill we talked about becomes his absolute key to survival. The process is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. First, he ingests something. Then, his great sage skill analyzes it. And finally, he acquires its abilities, and sometimes even its form. This this is how he's going to evolve. And he doesn't waste any time. He immediately starts experimenting. He finds some glowing herbs, consumes them, and suddenly he can create healing potions. He eats some magic ore, and now he can store magic. He even absorbs cave water, which gives him this awesome water jet propulsion skill. Literally, every single thing he consumes is another step up the evolutionary ladder. So for months, this is his life. Our little slime just explores this dark cave all by himself, consuming, analyzing, and evolving. But then, he hears something. For the very first time in his new life, he hears a voice. And this right here, this is a major turning point in his new existence. Now, this isn't a sound he hears with, ears he doesn't have. It's a telepathic message, and it feels ancient and just overwhelmingly powerful. It just echoes through his mind, and he knows two things for sure. One, he is not alone anymore. And two, whatever is with him in this darkness is on a completely different level of existence. It turns out that voice belongs to Vildora, the storm dragon. And listen, this isn't just any dragon. We're talking about one of the 4 most powerful true dragons in the entire world. But there's a pretty big catch. He's been trapped here, in this very cave, sealed away by a magical prison for the last 300 years. So yeah, Valdora is insanely powerful, but he is also incredibly bored and lonely. So he makes our little slime a pretty simple offer. Hey, stay and talk with me, keep me company, and in return, I'll teach you how to use your magic to perceive the world. I'll teach you how to see without eyes. And that right there, that's their connection. I mean, Satro felt lonely in his 37 years as a human, but Valdora, he's been completely alone for 300 years. That shared experience of solitude is what bridges this enormous gap between a tiny little slime and a legendary storm dragon. And this is where our slime does something totally unexpected. Instead of being terrified of this all-powerful dragon, he sees a kindred spirit. So he makes this really audacious offer, probably one Vildora hasn't heard in centuries. He just looks at the legendary storm dragon and asks, "Let's be friends." And right there, in that moment, as he's befriending a literal Cataclysm-class dragon, our protagonist finally fully accepts his new reality. Remember the guy who called his life nothing special? That guy now understands that his mundane existence is well and truly over. He has been reborn into a life of pure adventure. What a remarkable transformation, right? From an ordinary man to an extraordinary being, all sparked by a tragic end and a super bizarre new beginning. And it really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If you were reborn, what would you become?